going to Camp Jewel was like one of the most important parts of the program, because if it hadn't been for that, I don't think I feel comfortable talking in front of a group of people that I never knew before, because there's where we built all that trust and really got to know each other.
I agree.
I also want to say that while we were doing the group initiatives, that if someone wasn't quite as, athletic, they couldn't get over the wall real quick, no one really laughed or made fun or anything. And that was something that most kids like myself never really experienced before, because kids can, as you know, can be kind of immature and whatever. But that didn't happen at Camp Jewel. If somebody fell or if somebody didn't get it right, they did it again, and they didn't mind that it wasn't that easy. We just did it over until we got it done, and that was nice for me.
Yeah, we really trusted each other. Just being with that weekend, we trusted and we felt good about each other, and we really got close.
You could see how that experience carried over to our week-to-week meetings. We had an opportunity often to meet with leaders in our community. One of the first people who came to speak before our group was Representative Naomi Cohen from the Bloomfield area. Ebony, what was that like for you?
First of all, Ms. Cohen is from Bloomfield, which is my hometown, and she invited us to meetings that they would have on issues in Bloomfield High School, and she said that we were welcome to come. And she talked about the fact that when we think about legislature, we think about a group of people, but when it comes to passing laws, they have to work as individuals, because some are for the law and some are not.
I know what you mean. It takes a lot to build that leadership, to build confidence, to be able to speak in front of a group of people to get your ideas across. Oftentimes, when we decided on our group projects, we came together and we broke up into smaller sections, into smaller groups, and worked on some ideas that we all shared to further express our common ground feeling that we had from Camp Jewel. There was a dance committee, there was a newsletter, there was the video production that we're involved in right now. Does anyone have any comments about what those experiences were like? Who was from the dance committee, Rob?
Well, our purpose for the dance was getting all the communities together and mingle. That was our main thing, is mingle, get to know each other, get rid of the stereotypes of what Bloomfield people are like or what Hartford people are like, and just understand each other.
At the dance, there was the first time that we had 8 high schools involved in one place at the University of Hartford. And there were about 80 students there from Common Ground. It was really a nice turnout. Anyone want to talk about what it was like?
Well, I was there as a chaperone, and I think what Jen said initially is a valid point, and that is I think many of us came to Common Ground having some stereotypes of what goes on in each of our home schools in terms of the type of students and the interaction among students. And I think what happened in the Common Ground experience is we found out that all of these young people have common goals. They want to be successful. They want to be accepted by their peers. They want to dress nicely. They want to have the right records to play. But they're all human beings, and they all have sensitive and have feelings, and they want to be respected for those feelings.
That's very true. And one of the other things about the students in Common Ground is that they want to do things for their communities and in their schools. We had an opportunity to talk with Senator Larson from East Hartford when we were at the City Hall there. And he talked to us a lot about community involvement and what we could do as a group. Does anyone want to talk about Senator Larson?
I thought the afternoon with Mr. Larson was very interesting. Nowadays you hear a lot of people telling you how students are the leaders of tomorrow, and Senator Larson really brought it into focus, and he told us how we needed this type of training to bring us up so we can make decisions in the future, because the adults that are in charge now are not always going to be around, and the power is going to be passed down. And he talked to us about politics and how we shouldn't be afraid of politics, how we should be right into it and look for changes.
That was really interesting comment made by Meg regarding politics and how Senator Larson influenced her impression of politicians.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of time in today's society, we tend to hear a lot about the negative things that happen in politics and about the scandals and things that go on that negatively affect us. But Senator Larson really brought the point home that good things come out of politics, and politicians aren't all there are a lot of good politicians out there that are all working for the benefit for all people. And I didn't really know that before.
Jennifer, you had a thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't believe in politics at all until I kind of gave up on him because I kept hearing negative things about it, but he really made me think twice about my opinion and made me give politicians a second chance.
It's important that we realize how the politicians affect us and our lives. One of the things that we do in making decisions when we formed our small groups were some other activities that we wanted to see happen in Common Ground. And as politicians, we threw around some ideas, and we came up with some decisions, and one of them was an exchange project that Jose Lugo was very much involved in. Jose, you want to talk a little bit about the exchange project?
Well, the purpose of the exchange program was to get a student from a suburban school and another student from an inner city school. And the purpose was to visit each other's school and to compare notes, compare the differences from an inner city school to a suburban school. Tina here was also involved in the program with myself.
What we did was, the way that we set it up was that we each had like pieces of paper sent around to which schools would you like to visit, and we tried to pair up everybody with whatever school they put down on their paper, and that was the school that you went to, in order not to have so much chaos, like you go to this school, you go to that school. There was no order. We tried to get it organized, put it in a certain order so that there would be no confusion about it. So that's how that turned out.
When we're organizing a process, we really have to turn to our school liaisons. They're such an integral part of Common Ground in helping me to organize and to plan and to give me a lot of insight as to what goes on in the school system and to make things easier for you to achieve your goals. Jerry, you want to tell us a little bit about what it was like when we were organizing the exchange program?
Yeah. The function of the exchange was to give our kids an opportunity to spend time in one another's schools. The liaisons were really given the function of encouraging the students to be part of the experience, also to allow them not just to spend time in each other's classes, but to have an opportunity to talk to other students in other classes so that the program would extend beyond the limits of Common Ground. And in that regard, I thought maybe Rob could share with us some of what went on at Hall.
Well, I went to Hartford High in Hartford, and I brought my experiences back to my fellow classmates, and they had the impressions, excuse me, that they're all tough, they carried guns, knives, there's always fighting going around, and that was my impression too. But once I got there, I talked to the kids, you know, they seemed just like us, and that's what I brought back to my school. And they had their stereotypes about what they were like, but I brought what the real situation was, the real thing, and I told them, they were surprised, because that's what they really believed in. But no, I felt it was that our school, my Hall High, is exactly like Hartford High. Not exactly, but the way things go on.
I went to Hall High School with Rob, and Rob came to my school, which is Hartford High. And my friends kept telling me before my trip to Hall that people there were snobs and that they looked down at Hartford High. And when I went there, it was just totally the opposite.
Along with the exchange program, along with that idea of getting an opportunity to see each other's schools and meet each other's friends, we also had a chance at our holiday celebration to exchange some of our cultural celebrations during that season. Annabelle, what was it like for you to learn a little bit about someone else's cultural celebration during the holiday season? What was that like for you, Annabelle?
Well, I think it was different because I learned a lot about different cultures, such as Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and Christmas Day. And during the holiday season, I have learned how different people have celebrated their holidays throughout my town and my community, so it was kind of different and it was great.
I'm glad that you had that kind of an experience. It was that for all of us. We learned a little more about Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Three Kings Day, as well as sharing gifts in the spirit of Christmas. From that point, we went on to learn about leadership development. And we started off with Kathleen King, who helped us to understand a little more about problem solving and decision making. Megan was at that particular workshop. How was it for you?
I thought it was really beneficial. I remember we broke down into smaller groups, and we had a case study about this woman, and we read about it, and then we went up and we filled in what her obstacles were and what her options were, because it was an open-ended question basically at the end of it. And we also filled out a decision tree and all sorts of other decision-making skills that we've learned from in the past few talks from other people and what she gave us at the beginning of the meeting.
Tina, you had shared with me that you were able to use some of these new techniques in your own life. Want to talk a little bit about that?
When we first started to do the case study, it was kind of difficult to see what it was really about, because we didn't know what she was really, if she was on the right track. It sounded kind of normal to me. She was just a woman, doing all this stuff. But it really turned out that she didn't really know what she was, doing. And that happens to me sometimes. I think I might have everything together, but I'm just doing so many things, and I start one thing and I don't finish it. And when we did a decision tree, I learned that I could take all the things that I do, or all the things I think about, put them on paper and see which is good for me, which isn't good for me.
Our second guest speaker was Roberta McLaughlin from the Charter Oak Consulting Group, who presented to our group public speaking skills. Kim, how was that for you?
At first, it was scary getting in front of a camera, but it helped me a lot because usually somebody can tell you, make sure you make eye contact and stuff, but it doesn't really help you if you don't have a chance to practice it. And so we stood in front of the camera, and then after that, they videotaped us, and then they let us see how we looked on camera and what we did wrong, and they pointed things out, and then we just kept working at it until we can do it comfortably, and it's helping me right now.
I know Nilda Perici, who's one of our liaisons, was very instrumental in working with the students at the second camera, pointing out the areas of opportunity to improve ourselves. What was that like for you, Annabelle?
Well, I think she was a real good instructor. She was very open with us, so it made me feel more comfortable getting up there and saying something in front of a group or audience. And I think it was just great, and I felt comfortable the second time and the third time when I tried with the eye contact, and it was just great.
Daisy, you were the first student in front of the camera early on that afternoon. And throughout the course of the afternoon, did you feel yourself improve?
Yes, at first I was a little bit shy, but then Roberta helped me with some tips, and Nilda also helped me. She pointed out the fact that I was doing wrong.
That's really good. It's good to see that you can get better, because when you came up in front of the camera your second and third time, I saw improvement. How did you feel then?
I felt great, and I had more confidence in me.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. So these leadership workshops and skills building have been effective with the students. They are able to take these skills back to their high schools and in front of their student councils and as class president. Students have come to me and said they are more able to be involved in what's going on in school and taking on leadership roles. And that's what we try to accomplish in Common Ground. One of the goals of the Common Ground project is to do a community project. The students go along throughout the semester learning leadership skills, building confidence in themselves in speaking before groups, and looking at what's going on in their community that they can address as a group, as an issue that Common Ground students will deal with. And throughout the process, we have talked a lot about various issues, from drugs in the schools and gangs and teenage pregnancy and the homeless. And the homelessness situation is one that all the students felt they could deal with in their own communities, in their own schools. What we did was have each community call shelters in the area to assess the needs that were there in the shelters, how we might be able to be of help to people in our community. And we brought that back to a total group. Jennifer and Jody from West Hartford were in contact with Brad Davis, and because they were very concerned about the homeless situation. And Brad Davis came and spoke to our students at the Legislative Office building. That whole conversation helped the kids to focus in specifically about the situation with the homeless. What did that mean for you, Meg? You had some very touching comments about the homelessness situation.
Well, one point that Brad brought up, which I wasn't aware of, is that people tend to think that shelters are the answer to the homeless, and that really isn't true. We learned that shelters are only temporary, a temporary place for these people to go when they don't have a place to live. But what we really need is more affordable housing and raise the minimum wage, because many of these people have jobs, but they just can't afford houses and homes, and they're forced to live out on the streets.
Rob, you were telling me that it changed some of your impressions about the homeless. What was that?
Well, at first I thought that the homeless, I really knew what the homeless was. I thought they were people, just bums that drank wine and beer. That's all they did. But they're not. They're people that can't afford housing, and they do have jobs. They are trying to find places, and it's not that they can't do anything with their lives. They are trying, and they're people like us, but just can't afford housing.
Cora, as a liaison, did this experience change you in any way?
I think it brought home the issue that we need to approach this problem on many different levels. We need money from our legislators to give incentives to businesses and nonprofit organizations to provide affordable housing incentives. I think one of the comments that Brad Davis made was very apropos. When they were building the South Park Inn, they needed toilet facilities, they needed bedding donated, and what he did was he went to some private entrepreneurs and got them to donate a lot of services and a lot of time. These were people that were working on construction of City Place at the time. So I think if we approach this problem on many different levels, we can make the issue less severe than it already is.
Our next step was going to the shelters themselves. Brad Davis was our host and brought us around to the South Park Inn and to McKinney Shelter, which is a shelter for men. And the South Park Inn houses families, men, women, and children. What were some of your impressions, Kim?
Oh, to me, I don't think I could live in a room that had like numbers above the wall, like 1, 2, 3, this is your bed here. And he was talking about how like in the summertime it would be like about 100 degrees and everybody just in that room. And when we went in there, it was really hot in there, like if somebody smoked a cigarette or something, and it just, oh boy.
Ebony, you expressed us that you saw someone that you knew in one of the shelters. How did you feel?
Well, visiting the homeless had a great effect on me because of the fact that there was a girl there that attended Bloomfield High School, and she was a very good friend of mine. And she's only 17 years old, and to see her there, and she had 2 children, and I never, knew that there was a problem. And, when I went home, I thought about it, and the next day, a couple of days, I'm still thinking about it, and I want to do something for her, but there's not much I could do. I don't think there's much I could do.
What were your impressions, John, at McKinney Shelter?
Well, at South Park Inn also, as Kim said, when you see numbers in the bed, you don't expect at a shelter that you're going to get the finest quality or anything, but you expect to see crowded, cramped conditions. But when you go in and you see how impersonal it is, and no one really has space. Everyone's got maybe 2 or 3 feet around them, and that's their space. And when you look at your own self, you have like your own bedroom or your own living room, you can do whatever you want. Because men can't do what they want without being watched or kept under control.
Are there any other comments about the shelter, particularly McKinney Shelter?
Well, what John was saying, he's saying that you have absolutely no privacy at all. You gotta take showers with everybody, you dress with everybody. But the men and women, the children, they're separated. But besides that, there's no privacy. That would make me crazy after 30 days, because you have a limit. You can only stay in there certain days, right?
That's true. That's true.
That's what they're trying to make sure that these people will get out and find their jobs and get better jobs and homes.
We went back and discussed how we were going to help people in this particular situation, and we came up with a couple of ideas. The students actually came up with a couple of ideas about helping the homeless situation, and one of them was to meet on Sundays, to go to the shelter. Brad Davis told us that the men really like to get baked goods and things like that because they get all the produce from the stores all the time. So we had a couple of students who were able to go to McKinney Shelter on a Sunday afternoon and bring them some cookies and things that they had just baked hot from the oven. What was that experience like for you, Meg?
Well, even though Brad had reassured us several times that these men are just normal people who haven't had the greatest amount of luck, I was really terrified to head into a shelter for the men at McKinney. And we walked in, a few of us walked in with baked goods. And at first I was really apprehensive to go into the room where all the men were. And I sort of stood in the office and just like peered through the window, and they were doing the same. They were looking in at us and wondering what we were doing. But then after a while, there was a synagogue there helping us serve. And we served the food, and we walked around, and I talked to a lot of the men, and they were really quite polite and friendly, and they knew they had a lot of conversation. We conversed about a lot of topics, which I didn't think they'd even know about. And they were, I mean, I was really amazed. They were really friendly, and it was a lot of fun.
And from this point, working with the people on Sunday afternoons, the students are going to have an opportunity to feel firsthand what it's like, that the stereotypes that we have for people who are homeless are just not necessarily so. That these men at McKinney Shelter anyway, a lot of them are working and trying to better themselves and are just down on their luck at this point in time. Another aspect of our program is the mentoring component. The mentoring component matches an adult person with one of our students on a one-to-one relationship to learn a little bit about the work world, to be able to talk about your career paths and to talk about the career ladders and to have a very realistic view of your expectations of going into the work field. Would you like to talk to me a little bit, Kim, about your mentor, Barbara?
So far, Barbara has helped me push towards my career goal, which is to become a teacher. And she used to be a former elementary school teacher, so she was telling me what it was like and her advantages and disadvantages. And she's head of the daycare department, and since I like working with kids, she's going to try to get me a job doing something like that.
That's another aspect of the mentoring component. The mentors are able to develop a relationship over the period of time with the students and feel comfortable with helping you get summer employment, either in their place of business or at some other place they can refer you. Common Ground, all in all, has been a wonderful experience. It has helped us to learn to get over the stereotypes, to bridge the gaps, to learn about each other and feel comfortable working with each other, to develop some real leadership skills, to develop some community involvement and commitment to some of the issues that we all face and must address in our futures. It's been quite a great experience for me working with each and every one of you, and to work with the liaisons who have been so instrumental in helping me to frame parts of this program and keeping me sensitive to the needs of the students and the faculty and the school situation. Common Ground is a place where we have a chance to come together and to learn about each other and to strengthen ourselves as individuals and to strengthen ourselves as young leaders for our communities. We're able to take back what we've learned to our schools and to our communities and for ourselves personally with our own choices and with our own growth. I'd like to thank you again just for this opportunity to be with you and to go through this and to watch you grow into the leaders of tomorrow.